Step 1. Complete emotional withdrawal and authentic self-focus. The first and most crucial step in regaining an avoidance interest is to completely withdraw your emotional investment in them while redirecting that energy toward building an extraordinary life that doesn't require their participation or validation. This isn't about playing games or manipulating their emotions. It's about genuinely protecting your energy and investing it in people and activities that can provide consistent returns on your emotional investment. Avoidants are psychologically programmed to lose interest in what's easily available and become intrigued by what they can't access or control. Throughout your relationship, they became accustomed to your emotional reactions to their behavior, your anxiety when they withdrew, your relief when they showed attention, your efforts to decode their mixed signals and earn their consistency. These reactions, while natural, confirmed their power over your emotional state and made them feel simultaneously important and burdened. The complete withdrawal must be authentic rather than performed. You're not pretending to be uninterested while secretly hoping they'll notice your absence. You're genuinely redirecting your focus toward your own growth, healing, and life development because you've recognized that waiting for their emotional availability is preventing you from living fully and pursuing connections that can reciprocate your investment. This emotional withdrawal extends to every form of contact and interaction. Stop initiating conversations, responding immediately to their messages, analyzing their behavior for hidden meanings, or making yourself available whenever they decide they want connection. Most importantly, stop providing the emotional labor that has been sustaining whatever dynamic exists between you, the relationship processing, conflict resolution, and accommodation of their emotional limitations. The self-focus component requires intensive investment in your own development across all areas of your life. Pursue career goals that challenge and fulfill you, develop physical health and appearance that make you feel confident and attractive, cultivate social connections that provide emotional support and companionship, and explore interests and hobbies that energize you and connect you with like-minded people. This self-focus must be visible to the avoidant through strategic channels while never being directly aimed at getting their attention. Your social media should reflect someone who's thriving independently, your mutual friends should witness your growth and contentment, and your general energy should communicate that you've moved beyond needing external validation for your self-worth and happiness. The psychological impact on avoidance is profound because they've never experienced being genuinely unimportant to someone who once prioritized them highly. They realize they've lost not just your romantic attention, but your emotional investment entirely, which triggers their competitive instincts and forces them to reassess your value and their decision to maintain emotional distance. This withdrawal becomes particularly powerful when sustained over months rather than days or weeks. Avoidants need time to move through their psychological phases, from relief at the reduced pressure to gradual recognition of what they've lost to genuine missing of your presence and support in their life. Premature contact or inconsistent withdrawal undermines this natural progression. The authenticity of your withdrawal is crucial because avoidants can sense the difference between strategic distance, designed to manipulate their return, and genuine emotional independence that no longer requires their validation. Only authentic withdrawal creates the psychological conditions necessary for them to experience real loss and recognize what they took for granted. Your complete emotional withdrawal serves multiple purposes. It protects you from further emotional damage, demonstrates your self-worth and boundaries, creates the scarcity that avoidants find attractive, and provides space for you to develop into someone even more worthy of love while they process what they've lost through their own defensive choices. Step 2. Become mysteriously attractive and unavailable. The second step involves transforming yourself into someone so genuinely attractive, confident, and fulfilled that your unavailability becomes magnetic rather than punitive. This transformation must be comprehensive and authentic, touching every aspect of your life in ways that make you genuinely more interesting, accomplished, and desirable, while creating natural unavailability that stems from having better options and priorities. The mysterious component comes from becoming someone whose life is so rich and engaging that others naturally want to know more about you, be around you, and understand what makes you so confident and content. This mystery isn't created through secretiveness or game playing, but through genuine depth, growth, and experiences that make you more complex and intriguing than you were during your relationship with the avoidant. Physical transformation plays a crucial role in this step, not because appearance is everything, but because the confidence that comes from looking and feeling your best radiates in everything you do. Invest in your fitness, style, grooming, and overall presentation in ways that make you feel powerful and attractive. This isn't about becoming someone different, but about becoming the best version of who you already are. Intellectual and creative growth adds depth that makes you more interesting in conversations and social situations. Learn new skills that challenge you, read books that expand your perspective, take courses that develop your capabilities, and engage in creative pursuits that showcase your talents and passions. This intellectual development makes you someone worth knowing rather than just someone worth dating. Social expansion is crucial for creating natural unavailability that stems from having multiple sources of connection and engagement. Develop friendships that nourish you, join groups aligned with your interests, attend events that energize you, and generally become someone with a rich social ecosystem that doesn't depend on romantic partnership for fulfillment. Professional advancement demonstrates your ambition and capability while providing natural reasons for limited availability. Whether through seeking promotions, starting new projects, launching businesses, or pursuing additional education, your career development should reflect someone who's going places and has priorities beyond romantic relationships. The unavailability must be authentic rather than performed. You're not pretending to be busy to make the avoidant jealous. You're actually building a life so engaging and meaningful that their sporadic interest becomes irrelevant to your happiness and schedule. This genuine unavailability communicates that your time has value and that accessing it requires genuine effort and investment. Adventure and experience seeking add an element of excitement to your life that makes you seem more dynamic and interesting. Travel to places that expand your worldview, try activities that challenge you, and generally live in ways that create stories worth telling and experiences worth sharing. The transformation should be visible to the avoidant through social media, mutual friends, and occasional encounters, but never directly aimed at their attention. They should witness evidence of your growth and attractiveness while understanding that you're not seeking their validation or approval. You're simply becoming someone remarkable because you deserve to live an extraordinary life. This mysterious attractiveness becomes magnetic to avoidance because it represents everything they're drawn to: independence, confidence, mystery, and unavailability, while demonstrating that you've moved beyond needing their attention for your self-worth. They begin to see you as someone worth pursuing rather than someone grateful for their attention. The unavailability component is crucial because it forces them to compete for your time and attention rather than taking it for granted. When they realize they can't access you easily, that you have other priorities and commitments that take precedence over their sporadic interest, it creates urgency and desire that didn't exist when you were consistently available. Step 3. Strategic reappearance with upgraded standards and boundaries. The third and final step involves carefully timed and strategically executed reappearance in their awareness, but as someone who has fundamentally changed and now operates with elevated standards, clear boundaries, and obvious alternatives. This reappearance should occur only after you've completed substantial personal development and reached genuine emotional independence from their validation or attention. The timing of this reappearance is crucial and should only occur after several months of complete withdrawal, during which you've undergone genuine transformation and they've had adequate time to process your absence and recognize what they lost. Premature reappearance undermines the psychological work that both withdrawal and your development have accomplished. The strategic component involves choosing methods of reappearance that feel natural rather than desperate or manipulative. This might involve responding to their attempts at contact with friendly but emotionally neutral acknowledgement, accepting invitations to events where you'll both be present, or engaging in activities within your shared social circles that create opportunities for natural interaction. Your upgraded standards must be immediately apparent through your behavior, communication style, and the boundaries you maintain. You're no longer the person who was grateful for whatever attention they chose to provide, who accepted inconsistent communication, or who accommodated their emotional limitations at the expense of your own needs and happiness? These standards should be communicated through your actions rather than your words. When they attempt to resume previous patterns, casual contact without commitment, last-minute plans, mixed signals about their intentions, you respond with the behavior of someone who expects and receives better treatment in their relationships. The boundaries you maintain should reflect your growth and self-respect without being punitive or designed to hurt them. You're simply someone who now knows their worth and won't accept less than they deserve, regardless of their history with the person or their understanding of the person's limitations. Your obvious alternatives should be apparent through your social connections, romantic options, and general desirability without being flaunted or used to create jealousy. You're simply someone who has choices and options, who is valued and pursued by others, and who doesn't need to settle for inconsistent love or half-hearted commitment. The reappearance should demonstrate that you're open to connection, but not desperate for it, available for the right person under the right circumstances, but not willing to accept poor treatment for the sake of any relationship. This position of strength is both attractive and challenging to avoidants who are used to partners who prioritize the relationship over their own well-being. Your communication during reappearance should reflect your growth and evolution while remaining warm but not eager, interested but not invested, friendly but not pursuing. You're evaluating whether they've grown enough to meet your current standards rather than hoping they'll accept you back into their life. The key is that this reappearance should feel like a gift they need to earn rather than an opportunity they're granting you. They should sense that access to your time, attention, and affection now requires genuine effort, consistency, and emotional availability that they may or may not be capable of providing. This strategic reappearance often triggers intense interest from avoidants because they're encountering a version of you they've never met. Someone who has options, standards, and boundaries, but who might still be open to connection if they can demonstrate genuine growth and commitment. The challenge and uncertainty this creates is exactly what avoidants find irresistible. Why this approach works, the psychology behind avoidant attraction. Understanding why this three-step approach successfully regains avoidant interest without begging requires comprehending the fundamental psychological drivers that govern avoidant attraction and attachment patterns. Avoidants are wired to want what they can't easily have, lose interest in what's readily available, and become intrigued by people who don't need their validation for self-worth and happiness. The complete emotional withdrawal in step 1 addresses their core psychological need for autonomy and freedom from emotional pressure while triggering their competitive instincts through scarcity. When you stop pursuing, analyzing, and accommodating their patterns, you remove the suffocating feeling they associate with attachment, while creating the space they need to recognize what they've lost. This withdrawal also allows them to experience authentic missing rather than relief from overwhelming emotional demands. When they're not constantly managing your reactions to their behavior or defending against your attempts to understand them, they can actually feel the absence of your positive contributions to their life, your support, understanding, companionship, and care. The neurological impact of your withdrawal is particularly significant for avoidants because their nervous system finally gets to relax from the hypervigilance they maintain around emotional connection. Once this relaxation occurs, they begin to notice what's missing from their daily experience. The comfort, security, and emotional regulation that your presence provided, even if they couldn't consciously acknowledge it at the time. The mysterious attractiveness developed in step 2 appeals directly to avoidant psychology because it represents the independence and self-sufficiency they claim to value while demonstrating emotional security they find both attractive and safe. You're no longer someone who needs them for validation, but someone who has become genuinely worth knowing and pursuing. This transformation also triggers their fear of loss and replacement. When they see you becoming more attractive, accomplished, and socially connected, they realize you have options and alternatives that might make their presence in your life optional rather than necessary. This potential replaceability motivates interest and effort they weren't willing to provide when they felt secure about your continued availability. The social proof element of your transformation is particularly powerful for avoidance. when they see other people appreciating, pursuing, and valuing you. It validates what they always knew but couldn't fully acknowledge, that you're someone special worth fighting for. This external validation of your worth often carries more weight than their own internal recognition of your value. The strategic reappearance in step 3 creates the perfect psychological conditions for avoidant attraction. You're available enough to be accessible, but unavailable enough to be challenging, interested enough to be encouraging, but independent enough to be intriguing, familiar enough to feel safe, but changed enough to feel exciting. Your upgraded standards and boundaries during reappearance force them to step up to a level of relationship investment they may never have provided before. They realize they can't resume previous patterns of minimal effort and maximum benefit, that earning access to your time and attention now requires genuine commitment and emotional availability. The timing component of your reappearance is crucial because it typically coincides with their peak vulnerability, the phase where they've processed their loss enough to feel genuine regret but haven't yet moved into complete acceptance or found adequate replacement for what you provided. This timing maximizes the impact of your transformed presence. The combination of all 3 steps creates what psychologists call optimal challenge for avoidance. You're neither too easy, which they find boring, nor too difficult, which they find overwhelming, but precisely challenging enough to maintain their interest while requiring growth and effort from them. This approach works because it addresses avoidant psychology directly rather than fighting against it. Instead of trying to convince them to want consistent intimacy, you become someone whose inconsistent availability creates the mystery and challenge they naturally crave. Instead of demanding they overcome their fears, you become someone safe enough to approach but valuable enough to pursue. The paradox of this approach is that by genuinely not needing their interest anymore, you become infinitely more interesting to them. By building a life that doesn't require their participation, you create the exact conditions that make them want to participate. By developing standards that they may not be able to meet, you motivate them to stretch beyond their previous limitations. The long-term implications: building sustainable attraction. The beauty of this 3-step approach extends beyond simply regaining their interest. It creates the foundation for sustainable attraction based on mutual respect rather than anxious attachment or emotional manipulation. When an avoidant returns to someone who has undergone this transformation, they're encountering a fundamentally different dynamic than what existed previously. Your emotional independence means they can no longer use withdrawal as a tool to manage the relationship or maintain control over your emotional state. They must engage with you as an equal who has options rather than someone grateful for whatever attention they choose to provide. This equality is both challenging and attractive to avoidants who have grown tired of partners who lose themselves in the relationship. Your elevated attractiveness and expanded life mean they're not just reconnecting with someone from their past, but discovering someone new who has evolved beyond the person they once knew. This newness provides the excitement and mystery that avoidants crave, while the familiarity provides the safety they need to risk emotional investment. Your boundaries and standards mean that any renewed relationship must operate under different terms than before. They can't simply resume previous patterns of inconsistent communication, emotional unavailability, or taking your presence for granted. They must demonstrate growth and commitment to earn ongoing access to your time and energy. This approach also protects you from falling back into unhealthy patterns should they return. You've developed the self-worth, independence, and options that make you immune to accepting poor treatment out of fear of being alone. You can evaluate their returning interest objectively rather than desperately accepting whatever they're willing to offer. Most importantly, this approach ensures that if they do return, they're returning to someone who has grown beyond accepting poor treatment, who has options if the relationship doesn't meet their needs, and who can love without losing themselves in the process. This creates the foundation for a healthier dynamic should reconciliation occur, while protecting you from settling for less than you deserve if they remain incapable of genuine partnership. The sustainable nature of attraction built through this method means that their interest is based on genuine appreciation of your evolved qualities rather than temporary curiosity or ego-driven desire to reclaim what they lost. This foundation creates the possibility for lasting connection rather than another cycle of pursuit and withdrawal, potential outcomes and staying empowered regardless. Implementing this three-step approach doesn't guarantee that the avoidant will return or that any reunion will be successful and lasting. However, it guarantees that you'll emerge from the process as a stronger, more attractive, and more emotionally secure person who is capable of healthy relationships, regardless of what happens with this particular individual. If they don't return after your transformation, you'll have built a life so fulfilling and attractive that their absence becomes irrelevant to your happiness and success. You'll have developed the confidence, options, and emotional security that make you attractive to emotionally available partners who can provide the consistency and commitment you deserve. If they do return but haven't done their own work to address their attachment issues, your elevated standards and boundaries will quickly reveal whether they're capable of the kind of relationship you now require. You'll be able to assess their growth objectively rather than accepting promises or potential over actual behavioral change. If they return and have genuinely grown and developed greater emotional availability, you'll be positioned to build something healthier together based on mutual respect and genuine compatibility rather than anxious attachment and fear of abandonment. The key is maintaining your empowerment regardless of the outcome. Your worth isn't determined by their decision to pursue you or their capacity to love you properly. Your happiness doesn't depend on their emotional availability or their ability to meet your needs consistently. You've built something beautiful independent of their participation, and that beauty remains whether they're wise enough to appreciate it or not.